Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world. Your family budget, your ability to fill up your tank, none of it should hinge on whether a dictator declares war and commits genocide in half a world away. To help deal with this Putin price hike, I've authorized the release of 1 million barrels per day for the next 6 months from our Strategic Petroleum Reserve. This is by far the largest release of our national reserve in history. It's a wartime bridge to increase oil supply as we work with U.S. oil producers to ramp up their production this year. Coordinated release with partners and allies around the world. I've spent hours and hours with my counterparts around the world trying to get them in on the deal. Yes, I call this genocide because it becomes clearer and clearer that Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of being able to clean Ukraine. And the evidence is mounting. It's different than it was last week. The more evidence is coming out of literally the horrible thing that the Russians have done in Ukraine. And we're going to only learn more and more about the devastation. And we'll let the lawyers decide internationally whether or not it qualifies. But it sure seems that way to me. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Let's go, guys. We're going to load. Let's go.
A dangerous trade, officials worry, is fueling violence in Colombia. Mexican drug cartels appear to be shipping high-powered weapons in exchange for shipments of cocaine from Colombian traffickers. A bevy of machine guns, assault rifles, and semi-automatic handguns are flowing into the South American country, a dozen Colombian law enforcement officials told Reuters, fueling the already deadly struggle between rival traffickers for control of Colombia's drug routes. General Fernando Murillo, the head of the investigative division of Colombia's National Police, says paying coke suppliers with weapons rather than bulky cash helps Mexican cartels launder profits.
Every day, conducting drug trafficking through cash payments gets more difficult, so now they are using different methods. A Mexican cartel might pay with sophisticated arms.
The potent firepower of the cartel-supplied arsenal could have serious implications for Colombia's security. Heavy arms in the hands of criminals put law enforcement at risk and could further complicate the troubled implementation of a 2016 peace deal between the government and the rebels known as FARC. Last year, 148 members of the armed forces and the national police were killed in Colombia, according to figures from the Ministry of Defense, the highest figure in 6 years, and a 57% increase from 2020.
Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed a bill on Tuesday making abortion illegal in the state. The near-total ban punishes providers with up to $100,000 in fines and 10 years in prison if they perform an abortion, except in the case of medical emergencies.
We want to choose life in Oklahoma. We don't want to allow abortions in the state of Oklahoma.
The bill has been slammed by pro-choice rights groups. Talcott Camp is Chief Legal and Strategy Officer of the National Abortion Federation, representing abortion providers.
Why is it happening now? I think it is part and parcel of a sort of, retrograde push back toward white supremacy and toward autocracy in this country. And it is just disheartening. None of us are giving up the fight to make sure folks who know that what they need and what their families need, what they need for their lives is abortion care.
Oklahoma was a destination for women from neighboring Texas who were seeking an abortion. Planned Parenthood abortion providers in Oklahoma saw a nearly 2,500% increase in Texas patients in the months after Texas banned abortions in September for pregnancies from about 6 weeks, before many women know they are pregnant. This bill follows a string of Republican-led states that have quickly passed ever stricter abortion bans. The U.S. Supreme Court is set to rule on a Republican-backed Mississippi law by the end of June. That could potentially overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling, which legalized abortion nationwide back in 1973. The ban will take effect this summer unless it is blocked in court.
Today, I've received a fixed penalty notice from the Metropolitan Police relating to an event in Downing Street on the 19th of June 2020. And Let me say immediately that I've paid the fine and I once again offer a full apology. And in a spirit of openness and humility, I want to be completely clear about what happened on that date. My day began shortly after 7 a.m. and I chaired 8 meetings in number 10, including the Cabinet Committee deciding COVID strategy. I visited a school in Hemel Hempstead, which took me out of Downing Street for over 4 hours. And amongst all these engagements, on a day that happened to be my birthday, there was a brief gathering in the Cabinet room shortly after 2 p.m, lasting for less than 10 minutes, during which people I work with kindly passed on their good wishes. And I have to say, in all frankness, at that time, it did not occur to me that this might have been a breach of the rules. But of course, the police have found otherwise, and I fully respect the outcome of their investigation. I understand the anger that many will feel that I myself fell short when it came to observing the very rules which the government I lead had introduced to protect the public. And I accept in all sincerity that people had the right to expect better. And now I feel an even greater sense of obligation to deliver on the priorities of the British people.